Hi, everybody, and welcome to Fire and Ice Conscious Conversations with Alexandria and Daren. And today we're going to dive into are you experiencing the timeline split? And what exactly is that? And how would you know if you're experiencing it? So, we're going to have an engaging conversation around that. We're so happy to have you here and joining us. And yeah, let's just dive in and see what we find out.
Yeah, so yeah, me and Alexandria were talking, ahead of time about this, and I feel like this is a ongoing thing as we continue to go in 2024. And so I'll just maybe give a little example, of how and what a lot of us are experiencing, which is old ways or people falling off or falling out of our lives or which is kind of where we want to kind of go into with these splits of one not wanting to bring their frequency up or their vibration to another. So then we find ourselves in these places of where you're not matching, where you can have a conversation and you're just not really vibing or in alignment anymore with that. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and how that so that's what's happening on this on the spiritual level and
Hmm.
on the 3D sort of level, you might just notice that you're not uh really connecting. Could be friends or family members, could be anybody really. But I think what really hits home with us is when it's, when it is a family member or when it's a friendship that's kind of like
Yeah.
just not, it's like a hit and miss. And it's like, so then it becomes more missed calls and
Yeah, I was gonna
more
say that.
cancellations. Yeah, could be on either side or both sides. And
Yeah.
and so I think the old sort of way of dealing with that would be to double down even more and be more, more of a presence in that person's life and or try to be, to fight for whatever it
You feel
is
like that's
because
exhausting though, isn't it? It's
it,
gotten
it
so
is, it
exhausting
is.
now, where
And
it's
then it
like,
feels like it's, maybe against what their free will might be, or,
mhm,
they might be pushing and you're like, I don't really want to be doing that, but I don't want to have like a conversation about it or something. It's just the vibes aren't lining up,
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just that the frequency is not there. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that person or with you, or nobody's done anything wrong. It's just not, because it's just too hard for, and as for those of us who are actively raising our vibrational frequency, and so in preparing for, the ascension, if other people are still down here dealing with 3D stuff, there's just not going to have that level of understanding of, you know, so letting go, so I think that's a really good way just to kind of release and let go. And if it comes back around again, that's fine. But you know,
It's interesting what you said because it's like the missed calls, the it's so funny because I've had this experience, and you call someone and then I'm like, all right, I let it go, I let it go, and then weeks go by and then maybe we cross paths again, family member or whatever it is. And then they're like, I'm like, hey, by the way, I did shoot you a call a few weeks ago. Oh, I never got it, you know?
yeah,
And it's just like, I mean,
yeah,
and
messages going into spam that
yeah,
shouldn't,
yeah,
things
or
like that. Yeah,
yeah, and
glitches.
but then from a 3D standpoint, it looks like you don't care, or you're selfish, or you're self-centered, or oh, you don't care about the friendship or the partnership or whatever the case may be. And
Yeah, yeah,
but then it feels so much like, because I've found this myself, if you really pay attention, you're really aware, and you feel the energy, like all of a sudden you feel this energy, this boost, you're like, oh, I want to give this person a call, and then it just starts dissipating as you feel the energy just start dissipating, and then it's like,
yeah,
you know what, I don't feel like it anymore, it doesn't feel right anymore to do it, to make that call,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like feeling into that energy, because there is a big push and pull. It's almost like it can feel like a magnet flipped around, and you know how like you take two magnets and you turn them
Yes,
to
yeah,
right,
that's
and you're
that's a
pushing them
really good
together.
analogy.
Yeah, and then you're
Yeah.
pushing them together, and then they're
And you're
pulling
getting that
apart.
resistance, and it's
The
just like, nope,
resistance.
nope. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's really good. I haven't thought of it like that for a while, but that's actually a really good way to describe that.
Yeah, and I feel like it is becoming more and more difficult as we proceed in 2024 to and beyond, where it's going to get harder for see I what I've gotten through downloads is that we can go down, but that's going to get more difficult. So and then
That's good because we don't want to go down.
yeah,
We're supposed to go up.
and then they're gonna have to raise theirs to meet us where we are, but a lot of them don't want to do that. And then so then you're gonna constantly be having these discussions where the person doesn't understand you or you don't understand them. And the
Yeah,
communication is gonna be completely off. And then it's gonna be like, then you're gonna be experiencing triggers that they're gonna be triggering you, you're gonna be triggering them to kind of push them in that direction. But it's free will and choice, and you can choose what you want to do. But I can bet that a lot of people are going to try to raise their frequency to match you because they don't want because they're seeing the divide happening, which is that timeline split, and
yeah,
so it's easy though when you're it's not easy, but I'm saying when you're in the 3D, you'll use that whole thing because I experienced that a lot in my life, and I'm sure everyone, and even including yourself, where people are just like, "You don't care, you're not a friend, you're not whatever," or they just play that, like like
yeah.
you're being selfish, or you don't care
And
about.
yeah, sorry
No,
to
no, go
jump in,
ahead,
but
go ahead.
where I used to hear that, I would actually hear that from some people, and it would be when I was not wanting to listen to their sort of really negative dissertation about something, and whether they'd be complaining about a partner or something, and they'd be like wanting to go over it and over it and over it, and I'd be like, there's nothing more I can add to this conversation. You asked me my advice, but I'm not going to keep like
Yeah, yeah,
keep
yeah,
going through. It's like you have choices you can make, but like I'm not going to devote time and energy to that. And
yeah,
it's like, well, you're a selfish friend. You're not a, well, actually, I'm a good one because I'm not going to let you spend time there when you're with me. At least we're going to be on positive things. But not everybody gets that, and not everybody
yeah,
they want to commiserate. Some
yeah,
of these people, they're so steeped in the 3D
yeah,
that and they don't really comprehend what we're talking about. They're just not there, and
yeah,
that's okay to let people just be who they are. It's not like you're like, oh, I don't like them anymore. It's just like it's not feeling natural and it's not flowing, so I'm not going to force something that is not naturally occurring, because other things are. So as you release those and you see others that are other people who are more like-minded, or there's opportunities to do things with them, and so I think giving up that struggle, but it's a very 3D thing that you have to let's take friendship. If you're friends with somebody, then you have to be friends with them for 30 years. It's like that. No, I think you should, as long as both parties are feeling like they want
yeah,
that,
and it's conducive,
but
yeah, for
when
your
it starts
growth,
to go
yeah,
wonky, you don't struggle
yeah,
to keep something,
yeah,
how many times are you going to glue something together that doesn't want to be together? It's like we
yeah,
said with the magnets. When you feel that pushing and you go to reach out to somebody and you're just feeling that, yeah, maybe later, maybe tomorrow or next
yeah.
week or next month,
And it just
or,
naturally falls off though.
yeah, yeah,
If you really follow that, it naturally falls off. The universe will take care of it itself, or your higher selves will take care of it for you, versus like you trying to I mean, yeah, I know, I can think of so many instances where I experienced that in my life, and now I
yeah,
feel like it's so much different. And you start to see that you can't even do it anymore. I mean, I have a
yeah,
friend that is from where I used to live, and I used to talk with them every single day on the phone, maybe multiple times a day. I mean, I knew him since like 2001, and I can tell you now we don't talk barely at all, maybe once every few months or something like that. And it's like we never stop talking when we do, but there's no like I don't feel like this drive or this pull towards that any longer. I feel like these 5D relationships are becoming this way where you can just come and go and you can come back together and it's like you never were apart. You know,
Yeah.
pick up where you left off and nobody is like holding resentment or judging you for not, coming
Keeping
around.
score,
Yeah,
who
yeah,
called
yeah,
who or
yeah,
who,
yeah, yeah. And it's
texted
like
who.
they're healthy relationships. They're, not out of attachment because I feel
Yeah,
like the ones that we were just talking about are more based on attachment versus like love for that person, but without the
yeah,
attachment, you know?
yeah. Yeah, so I guess the moral to that is just let people accept who they are
Yeah.
and let just graciously just let it
Play
be.
out.
And
Let
it
it play
doesn't
out.
mean
Yeah.
it's not going to come back, but I
Yeah.
mean maybe it won't ever. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that attachment is only going to create those hooks that we talk about, those energetic hooks where there's like, sort of energy that's being diverted from what we really want to be doing. And I think if anything to be doubling down on, I think is our own like um trying, creating this 5D world and focusing on
Mhm.
the positive stuff and focusing
Yeah.
on being the light and being the light and all of that. I mean that's where I know that's where I'm feeling my energy is.
Me
I'm feeling
too. Me too. And
that.
keep in mind too when you are like the council has said numerous times, when you are playing in that and you're going back and forth about it, you're lowering your consciousness, you're lowering your
Yeah.
frequency,
Yeah.
and um so like not only that, it's like exhausting as hell. You end up with physical issues, you end up with
Yeah.
all kinds of things, and your body's like telling you, yo, like let this go, you know,
Yeah.
and that's the difficulty that a lot of people are having, and that's what I feel like why this episode is so important because it's like um it's like those are the signs we have to listen to, our bodies telling us, hey, this is like you're efforting this too much, and it's like you're swimming upstream, you know
Yeah, and it becomes
against the
like an
current.
obligation, and
Yeah, it becomes an
that's
obligation.
not
It's like
fun.
still
So
people pleasing mentality in it and all of that stuff. And it's like it's like the magnet, like I said, and it's like I'm done with that. I can't you can it's like we're getting to a point where you can't do that anymore. I just feel like it's getting less and less.
yeah,
It's thinning more and more, and the timelines are splitting farther and farther apart. And so if you're either going to be on one, and I don't like saying separation and divide and all that, but it's like you're either going to be on one or the other eventually, you know?
yeah,
And it's like which do you choose, And I mean, I know me and you and a lot of us that we are surrounding ourselves with are choosing the higher timeline, the higher frequency,
yeah,
higher vibration. It feels better. It's more peaceful, it's effortless,
yeah.
oh,
And you can still from there, you can still extend love. You can still send
oh
love
yeah.
to
Oh yeah.
people, and especially if
Yeah.
they are relationships like family ones where you do anticipate that being a lifelong relationship, then you can still send love without getting too entangled with wherever they're at, right? But let's talk about like when you say like timelines, like let's just back that truck up a minute and like really define that for any of our viewers, or at least as we perceive, like what do you what you think about timelines and what that
Well,
means. What do
okay.
you mean?
Well, there's many timelines, of course. Like meaning there's different paths and there's many of them. And it's getting to the point where, okay, so let me try to break this down. So what I mean by timeline is a path, a certain path. So you could have a timeline that you're healthy and you're vibrant and you're well and all of that, and then you could have another timeline that is you're not well and you have things happening in your life and whatever you want to call them. There's different ones you can go down. You can choose the timeline of health and wellness or one that you're not healthy and well. and
So
that's
you're
just,
talking really about the multiverse where like every time we're faced with a decision that there's a part of us that takes like one route and a part takes the
yeah,
other.
yeah.
So then so you can follow either one of those
Yeah, and there's
down.
many of them though. There's like so many
Yeah.
versions happening
Yeah.
all at
Yeah.
once, like thousands of timelines. But as far as the
Boggling.
collective goes and humanity, there's two that we're ending up with two, which I've heard as well. I've gotten downloads that they're going to merge together because we are multidimensional and they're going to merge together, but yet it's still going to be where it's going to be a world where this is the kind of the visions that I get, where you're going to be playing in the same world, but everybody's still, they're on different frequency or different vibration. And so that's where you're going to have these mismatches where you're it's almost like I've already been experiencing this for a few years where, and I'm sure if I use this as a analogy, you may have experienced it yourself, where you're like in a public place, and depending on what frequency you're at, you could be like standing in a crowd of people, and someone walks past you, and they're on the phone, and you can't hear a single word they're saying, and they literally walk right past you, but you don't know the words they're saying. All you hear is sound.
Hmm.
And I've had that happen when I was in a house with someone listening to the mainstream type of stuff, Um,
Yeah.
I don't want to really mention on here, but everybody knows what I'm referring to. And so when you're listening to that, I could literally one day, I could hear everything that was being said. Then another day, and literally being right in the next room, and I couldn't hear a word they were saying. It was just as loud, if not louder. But
Oh, wow. I'm
I
not
could
sure
just
I've
hear
experienced
I could
this.
just hear sound.
Yeah.
And it was like because I was on a different frequency and vibration from what that mainstream stuff was talking about, that I couldn't hear it. And it's just like when you're having a conversation with someone and you're like, but you don't understand what I'm saying. Like I keep saying the same thing, but you don't understand what I'm saying. They don't even hear what you're saying. They cannot even comprehend what you're saying. Or even if it's like, I've even heard people tell me when I'm talking about some of these things, like the council or something like that, and they're like, oh, it just went over my head, completely didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So these are just kind
Yeah.
of examples of what people are going to see happening more and more as the split continues to happen of these timelines. And it's like we have free will and choice, and we could choose which one we want. Do we want the higher frequency? And like I said, a lot of people don't want to raise their frequency up there. Um, it comes along with a lot of things, a lot of changes, a lot of losing people, a lot of,
Responsibility.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, responsibility, losing people, that's when you start losing family members, you losing friends, and a lot of people, like I found myself for a long period of time between probably 2020 and now, where it was a tug of war. And I was trying to keep on holding on to this old identity of who I thought I was to who I'm now becoming. And it was like an internal tug of war. That's exactly what it felt like, a push and pull of me trying to hold on to everything what I've known for most of my life, which is a lot of people. They have an identity of they're this is my job. I've lived here for 40, 50 years. I stayed in the
Yeah.
same house in the same place. All this is like your identity. And the moment they change, that's why a lot of people, like even people I know personally, don't want to leave the relationship they're in because this is all they knew for so long,
Yeah.
and they don't want to let that go. And if they let that go, everything is changing.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that a lot of people struggle with. And with raising your frequency and your vibration and choosing that timeline, it requires you to let go of everything,
Yeah.
and it's even having letting go of stuff you have and what people know you of, you know. Does that explain like kind of?
Yeah, yeah, and it can be a scary thing to do, but I think if you just kind of hold the light and just, hold a positive expectation. And I know when you're talking about like big shifts, but that is scary, and it's just something you just have to go through. Like 6 years ago, for myself coming on 6 years ago. And I left my marriage and completely started my life over again, and probably one of the most challenging times of my life,
Yeah.
and but I'm so glad, looking back, I'm so glad that I did that.
That's what
And
I'm saying. You look back and you're like, oh my God, like if I didn't go through that, it pushed me on this path where I am now, and it showed me who I truly am. And it showed me the power that I have, and it showed me like my worth and my value and what I want and what I don't want. All of that. That's what I learned from all these super difficult things I went through as well. And
yeah,
I've had many what they call like ego, they say ego deaths, which is like
yeah,
a lot of the letting go of your identity, That's like I heard this woman say it and it was so profound um that we don't want to, but like these deaths that we're going through, like where we're kind of rebirthing into this new version of us, is like almost like is very close to transitioning completely out of your body. And it was really interesting the way it was described, and but we don't want to do that, and we don't know how to do that, a lot of people, because that's all they know. But it's becoming more and more difficult to hold on to all of that, because the universe is stepping in. All these energies that we're experiencing and these eclipses and all these things are bringing it all
yeah,
out even more and
yeah,
showing in our faces that, oh, wait a minute, like, okay, this is triggering this person, this is triggering that person, like this is not working. There's something, you know what I mean? It's like being forced up out of us to look at it, finally, because you can't dust it under the rug anymore. You
yeah,
can't run
yeah,
from it.
and
You
yeah,
can't run
that's
from it.
the thing. It's happening, whether,
Yeah.
and so there's only so much ignoring that you can do,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
because, like, say there's higher self will just remove you from situations, or just
Oh
make it
yeah.
so much, bring it to the crux that it's just like there is no other option really but to move on, or so you can do it the easy way or you can do it the hard
That's what I'm
way.
saying. That's what I always say. Like I'm like, I said to the universe, man, the last time, I'm like, nope, you don't ever have to, I don't ever want to take it to that level. Like I'm gonna handle it before you have to step in, before I get brought to my knees, you know,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's the one thing that I'm gonna tell you. Like, now you don't want to wait for the universe to step in or your higher self to step in to force this to happen. And it's interesting because you see so many situations where, and I'll just give this as a quick example, like people who don't know how to get out of their relationship, and you end up finding not to say that it's right, okay, and I'm not condoning anything in that way, but I saw a situation that the guy cheated on the girl that he was with for 15 years or whatever, something like that, and probably knew her even longer than that, but didn't know how to get out of the situation. And the only way out was for him to do that. Yes, it affected so many people. Am I
mm,
condoning that? No. But that's the whole thing that even the council talks about about like cancer and the disease, and how until we get to a point where we can actually be authentically ourselves and say, hey, I want to leave, I want to transition onto the other side, and everybody around you be okay with that, then these things are still going to continue in that level of frequency, where somebody does that to get out of a situation because they don't know how else to do it other than
yeah.
doing it in
They
that
just
way.
know they're not happy. They may not
That's what
recognize
I'm
why, they
saying.
just know they're not happy. So anything that brings any kind of relief, whether it's alcohol or drugs
Or
or
cheating,
other
or yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they do it because it's like, I understand it. They don't want to hurt the other person and say, "Look," and they don't know how to tell them, like, "Look, I don't have feelings for you anymore," in that way. Like, I got it, like, after 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, it's really, I can understand how hard that is. And
yeah,
if, especially if you have kids and you have all this stuff and these dynamics, like, it's like you feel trapped and you don't know what to do, and you're actually doing it to try to not hurt the other person, but you actually are hurting them in the same at the same time. So then you do this, and
mm,
then it kind of separates you, and because of that, like then you create this situation that creates an explosion and makes it, yeah, maybe it made it even worse, but like you didn't know how else to do it. I get that, you know, but I don't condone it, or, you know, but I understand it. I see it from like a higher perspective. So
Yeah,
that's kind of
yeah.
like what I mean by all this timeline stuff and what's happening. And if you see it from that higher perspective, you know.
So what do you think? Just kind of get in, just relax and go with it, and just like we still have free will and all of
Yeah.
that. So not to think that no, someone's taking your free will from you. But so it's not about that, but it's just like kind of going with the flow, like going like again, doing what feels right at that point in time. And
Yeah, like
I
feeling
guess that's
into,
really all.
yeah, like feeling into the feelings of like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it felt good to call this person now, but now it doesn't. And
Yeah,
follow that. You know, like
yeah,
maybe you got distracted for a moment, and then it felt right to call them, and then you got distracted for a moment, and then it didn't feel like it anymore. And to go with that and not push it and do it anyway when it doesn't feel right, you know, and kind of lean into more of how you're feeling, because that's the way we're moving in that direction. Is we're becoming more and more feeling beings, and more in
yeah,
touch with our body and connected to our body and what our body's telling us. And so to pay attention to that more, because the more we do, the more the connection will be stronger, and we'll be able to pick up on those signs when something feels right or it doesn't.
yeah.
And then not to
And not
keep
to
putting
forget,
yourself in
we're
those
we're
situations.
telepathically connecting too. So
Yeah,
they,
yeah,
like if you're thinking about all these things, they're definitely picking up on it. They might be doing the same thing on their end, kind of going,
yeah,
well, should
yeah, yeah,
I?
yeah,
Maybe not right now, or maybe not this week, or same,
yeah.
might be going through the same things because they're feeling that same bumpiness as opposed to a smooth flow that, you know. So I think just to honor that and go where do you feel? Maybe you want to spend more time in nature. Maybe you want to spend more time with, maybe you're meeting other more like-minded people and you want to spend more time with them, having uplifting conversations, or you know,
It's like
you
what
know,
happened with me and you today as we're
yeah,
recording this. It's like there was a cancellation that I had, and someone else also said they couldn't do it at the certain time. And then I had this nudge to message you again. And lo and behold, the moment I messaged you, you came online and responded. And
yeah,
it went so smoothly and it all fell into line so perfectly, versus me like getting frustrated and angry that the person canceled last minute yesterday, you know, and but letting go of it and realizing that everything happens for a reason. And
yeah. So even though I didn't, so for our viewers, so even though I had received a message like 8 o'clock my time last night, but I didn't hear it. I put my phone away. I didn't even hear it. But then, actually, it couldn't have been that far because I heard the ping. So it's like, so literally when I just rolled out of bed this morning, slept in a little bit, and there was like, ping, there's a message like, oh, can you do a call like right now? Like, can I have tea? And then I can.
yeah,
But
but
yeah, it's like, in some cases I just like, I didn't hear it last night, but this morning it was like front and center, is like, here, you know, pay attention, kind of
no,
thing.
but
It got my
it was all meant to
attention.
work out that way, because like then I messaged this other person before I re-messaged you again, and they said they could do it and they would be great to do it, but they couldn't do it at that time. So I said, okay, you know, it's not going to work really. It has to be around this time. And so that wasn't meant to be either. And I leaned into that, and I didn't get angry, because if I got angry and I started, you know, oh, this is messed up, blah, 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 then I'm resisting.
Yeah.
Then I'm lowering my vibration and my frequency. Then I'm lowering my consciousness, you know?
Exactly. And that's the real reason why we should be like aware or noticing when these things are going like, when something is out of the flow, because that's what's happening to us, because the more time that we're like, or we got to want to try to fix it, or we want to try to
Hmm.
find out like,
Hmm.
why is this
Hmm.
happening or whatever, in the meantime we're still lowering our vibrational frequency when we're
And then we're
trying to
not
do
allowing
things.
for the next thing to come in. But
Yeah,
like what
then we're
happened with you? If I,
creating that resistance.
yeah, exactly. And if I would have done that, then it wouldn't have worked out with me and you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I would have been lowering my frequency, I've been lowering my vibration than what exactly what I was taught we were talking about earlier. Then you have
yep,
that invisible wall coming up, and then I would have been messaging and you wouldn't have got the call, you would have missed it because our vibrations are off and our frequency is off now because I was playing in, oh man, this is messed up, like victimhood and like, oh, poor me type of
yeah,
mentality, and all of that. This always happens, and you know, and so then we would have been completely mismatched, and it wouldn't have went in the flow that it did. So it's like so important to do that
yeah.
going forward
No,
because
I agree. I
it's
agree.
effortless. It's
And
effortless.
and and even if you're having like those moments where you're like, I don't know, you can be grieving a lost relationship or something, you give yourself that time, but
Uh,
try to come out of it as soon as you can. Like taking actual steps to get your vibe back up there because all that stuff like you're saying is happening, you're creating distance with other things that you don't want to be
yeah,
creating
and
friction
resistance.
or
Yeah,
distance with, so and like the council also says, when you're resisting
yeah. I was
anything,
gonna
you're
say the same
resisting
thing you just
everything.
said.
So
I was
you're
just gonna
blocking
say
all the
that.
good stuff that's
Yeah.
like trying to get to you because you're too busy hanging on to something that should be let go of.
Yeah, and it's not
So
working. And it didn't work for a reason. It didn't work out for a reason. Like that woman, it didn't work out for a reason today. But she said,
yeah,
and you know what was so funny about it? She didn't fill out the intake form yet. She didn't do the questions yet. So it wasn't even it was perfect that it worked out this way. And then she's like, "Okay, I'll get it to you the next week after the weekend, and then we can schedule the next available you have. And I'm excited for when we do it. You know what I mean? So it's like it was it was perfectly perfect the way it was. And yet a lot of people hang on to that,
yeah.
like, oh, that's screwed up. This freaking person canceled and blah blah blah. And they play in all of that, and then they're just blocking all the other good stuff that can come in, like someone else coming in their place, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
so
And who knows what other things might be at play with that.
exactly.
Like maybe there's learning that that person needs to do, or there's information
Yeah.
coming through for
Yep.
her that will make a difference with that session that you do
Exactly.
that just hasn't happened yet because it's still, you know, we still are in the 3D, right? There's still things that have to be, and we have all these other divine playmates, but they still have their own stuff going on too, and it
Mhm,
all has
mhm.
to come together in divine timing.
Exactly. And behind the scenes, the spiritual realm is doing things, organizing things and doing things to get things in.
Yeah, our angels and
Yeah, yeah.
everybody, our guides, just creating this. Yeah.
That is so perfect. I want to say, I think like what a phenomenal episode. And like, I mean, and I want to do the practice that, we spoke about. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'd like to do that. I think this is a perfect place to do it, where we just finished now with this.
Okay.
And yeah, let's do that and finish off the episode. I think this was a freaking awesome episode, especially how it
Okay.
all played out and fell into place. And yeah, really, really, really.
Well, it's so fun, and I just want to maybe just quickly before we go in, you can borrow from other people too. So I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna invite you in too. And I think any of our viewers will know that. So we have some favorite people, favorite teachers who were just in this I can do it, you
Oh
know.
yeah, yeah.
And so I've been borrowing that because I was like, I want that life, and I was like, well, then why aren't I visualizing that? So yeah, so let's talk about that I Can Do
Okay.
It conference. Wasn't that amazing to be on stage with Sarah Landon and Sonia Cochette and Mike Dooley and all of them? It was so incredible. I just loved the energy of talking with all those other Hay House authors and just being around there. There's such bright lights, and it was just so cool to have them like to share a stage with them and have them welcome us into their, into their bright lightness and call us, their, you know, how we've helped raise their frequency, telling us that, and having them calling us their, their friend and their, fellow light workers and stuff. It was just such an amazing experience to be there, and it was so fun to fly, into the States. I haven't been for many, many years, and some fun sightseeing, but just to be in and have that stage with all those like 500 people, and all they're bringing all their energy. And it was like what you talked about the sun today, this big bright sun, like there was just the impact of it. It just felt like 1,000 suns were just radiating us, and angels everywhere. And yeah, how did
Not
you
to
feel
mention,
about that?
not to mention the long line that I had to wait in to get the book autographed. To get
Oh
his
yeah.
book autographed, it was like the longest line, and I waited in that line for hours. It was wrapped around the building.
Well,
And
I was signing, I was autographing while you were doing that. You know, next time you'll have your book out, and then you'll be
uh,
where I
yeah,
was
but you know
sitting
what though? It was
signing,
good
and
because I met a lot
that
of
was fun
like-minded
too.
people. I met a lot of good energy. We had great conversations. It was it was a beautiful experience just waiting in that long line. And I turned it around because it's like I met so many beautiful people and collaborate made some connections, and that future collaborations are going to come about through these connections, just being in that line waiting to get the book autographed. Not to mention,
Yeah.
I saw you on stage get an award for the #1 bestseller, and not to
That was such a
mention,
surprise. I didn't even know that was
yeah,
coming.
and then not to mention what was so amazing about it was the fact that they announced that they agreed to publish another book and like a
Yeah,
series.
and that was and here's the award right here. Like it's so beautiful. I just love it. I mean, I saw like I could have a special shelf made for it, and just to remind me of that occasion, like when I was actually on stage with them. And yeah, so now it's going to be five Hay House books for me now, with the next two coming after. I got one more yet to be released this summer, and then two more after that. And it's just amazing how it all happened, because I didn't have an agent. They found me, and it was through, these connections with. So it's just so wonderful to have those kind of connections, and to be able to share with people what can really happen when you do kind of give yourself over, and then the magic starts to happen. And that's probably the best
How
part.
about
But
the biggest one of all? We both just hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
oh, yeah. And
You
then
know,
and the fireworks that went off when that
and I
happened.
got my plaque and you got yours and we have
Yeah,
our YouTube
yeah,
plaque.
yeah.
And
Where's
you
mine? I
know,
forget.
and I mean this is years in the making, and to have hit 100,000 subscribers is beyond um anything I could have imagined.
Well, who knew that video that you did was your idea, just came out of the blue, and then it just went viral, and we just had like so many subscribers came just from that one episode that we did. That was amazing.
Not to mention that, but Instagram and TikTok and all these different social media platforms are exploding, and people keep pumping us up. And I just am beyond excited for what's coming with the collaborations and the connections and the um
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
the interviews. And there's so many things lined up now coming into play that and that's unfolding.
And
uh
people wanting to be on our team and like manage our TikTok and
mhm,
things
mhm.
like that, so that we can devote our time to this. And they're just like, that's them doing their genius, and then their joy. And we just get to play and do what we like to do. And
Exactly. Yeah,
that's,
this
yeah,
is something I believe both of us have been envisioning for many, many years, and for it to actually have come to fruition. It's beyond grateful for the support. And just everybody believing in me, not only believing in me, believing in you, believing in ourselves, and
yeah.
continuing to keep going even in those moments when, uh, it felt like it was never going to happen, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's, yeah, I'm beyond excited for what is, um, unfolding. Um,
yeah, and it's crazy. And like our guest lineup, like we met
yeah.
connected with so many people there too, and they gave us so many great topics, and they're like all wanting to come on the show. So
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
really exciting to think about all these, these superstars, and they're wanting to be on our show.
They're telling me, I mean, it's like, you have to pinch yourself sometimes when you're, flying on a private jet to an I Can Do It convention in
Yeah.
Phoenix to
Yeah, it's like,
accept the
really? Is this really
reward,
happening?
autograph
You used to
books.
be the one in the audience, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying, it's like, to have that opportunity and flying around the world and traveling and, um, to have the support of so many people for, just is beyond. Yeah, I have to pinch myself many, many times to say, "Is this real? Is this real? Is this reality?" You know, and it's only going to continue to get better. And
Yeah,
I love this. This was awesome. Uh, this is like what is so good for so many people to do, and just imagine. Like, what was the
I
what was
just
the
play.
term that the
Just play.
council would say? Um, I think it was on the Wednesday call, last week, and they were saying like, what if this or something? What was that like? Where you kind of like talk about a like this would be amazing if you know what I'm saying? Do you remember that?
I no, I
It was
don't
some
remember.
term that like where you're kind of like, if you want to be in this relationship or you want to travel to this place, like what would it look like if I can't remember the words they use. We'll have to maybe.
Oh, so basically like to visualize like what we were just doing,
Yeah.
acting as if,
Yeah, but there was a
like, and
word,
we just, yeah,
there was words that
not
you
visualization.
that yeah, there was words that they use though where you say it like where you're kind of talking about the experience kind of similar to what we were just doing, but in a different way, where you're imagining like the sand and the water. And there was a couple words they used though that you could say right before you do it, like what would this be like if, or something like that. We'll have to maybe talk about it on the next one because I don't remember what it was. I thought maybe.
Yeah, I can't, nothing's coming to mind
Yeah,
either
that's all right.
for me.
It's something to that effect though, where you're, um, you know, um, what would this be like if I was on that beach right now, laying in the sand, the warm sand with the ocean running, similar to that. Uh,
Yeah. Well, and that makes sense because I don't know exactly what you're referencing, but I've done a lot of, visualization, and I know
yeah,
that's a way just to feel the sand on your feet,
yeah,
feel the
yeah,
sun on your body,
yeah,
feel the hug from whoever, like really to immerse yourself as much, because then you're actually creating that experience
yeah, or the
in
property
your,
you want to
you
be in,
know,
or whatever
yeah,
it
like
is,
get out and walk around on
Yeah,
it, like in your
yeah,
mind's eye, and
yeah, yeah.
make it your own there. And the more, the more you can bring to that. Like like literally I've been visualizing on what we were talking about. So I was looking at the pictures that Sarah had posted, and I was like, focusing, and saw myself in there with the group shots, and saw
Mhm,
myself on the stage with them, and just feeling like, and what am I wearing, and what am I, like, and what am
yeah,
I, which books do I have on the table in front of me too,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what I mean? So it's really bringing everything, and like hearing the applause, and hearing feeling the floor beneath me, and like everything, just engaging all of your senses,
You're
because
embodying it. Yeah,
because your mind can't tell the difference between what's real
exactly,
and what you're imagining.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
it comes down to that. So it's like that gives you like, God, like a magic wand, you
yeah.
just play with it.
You create
And
everything
so
you want.
I love some of the stuff that she said, like that she'd had, like a book on, or just Hay House on her vision board, and shared with us that she hadn't contacted Hay House. She didn't have an agent. She just knew that, no, they're going to come find me. And that was her belief and her mindset. And she now has 5 on Hay
Yeah,
House. She's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
in like what, a year and a half? Like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, and exactly,
that's
and
crazy.
how somebody just reached out to her, Mike,
Yeah,
and asked her, "Do you want to be do you want to be published?" And that's
yeah.
that's how it happened. I'm getting chills.
That's how easy. That's being in the flow.
Yeah,
So,
and
so
yeah,
like using stories like that, or if you hear some other star who's like, who came out of nowhere, that Susan, somebody who came out of nowhere a few years back from the UK, and all of a sudden she was like this musical superstar, and everybody's like, well, she doesn't have the look and she doesn't have the whatever, but she had the voice, and she
yeah.
just, Susan Boyle, is that
Oh
the
yeah,
right
yeah,
name?
yeah, yeah. I think so. Yeah,
Okay. Because
yeah,
I don't watch those shows, but I kept hearing it from people and
yeah.
hearing her story, and just, yeah, these people seemingly the overnight successes, they aren't really,
And
goes on the background, but
sometimes they don't even subconsciously know they're doing it, but they are, and so, but now, as we continue to raise our consciousness, we are conscious and we're able to make those conscious decisions instead of being like, oh my God, like, I don't know how I ended up here, and I'm living in this place and with these people and blah blah blah, and it was all unconscious. But now, as we continue to raise our consciousness, like what you're doing and what I'm doing, and the imagination, and we're able to consciously say, I want that. I want this for myself. This is the life I want to live. And then you can visualize it and feel all the sensories and create it the way you want it to be, versus
yeah,
like creating it from the hurt and the pain you went through, or this or that, and then ending up in the same relationships that are toxic or whatever, because it was like an unconscious state, that you were
yeah,
creating from, versus now we're creating from a conscious state, and we know we have choice and we are the creators, and all of it. So that was beautiful. Thank you so much.
yeah, yeah. So that's really good to just to really stretch, but even like in your personal life, like coming back to like, what do you want for your health? What do you want for your relationships? And visualize that too. Like,
Yeah,
rather
yeah,
than focusing on if you have an ache or a pain somewhere,
exactly.
don't focus
Yeah,
on that. Focus on the part of you that doesn't.
exactly.
Like if that you're,
100%. I've been getting that for the last few years. It's like, focus your attention on what you want to create. Stop giving your energy to these things that are being shown on the world
yeah,
stage, that are creating you to
yeah.
create more toxic thing, if you want to call it toxic, but
That's
whatever.
a good.
These things you don't want,
Yeah,
like, create the things you do want. Focus on the things you want to create in your life. What do you want to have? Do you want to be free and a entrepreneur and traveling the world, and going as you please, and being free and not being locked down to a 9 to 5 every week, and
yeah,
like, if that's what you want, then that's what you want, create that. But if you want to be free and not be locked down, create that as well. You can create it, you can have whatever you want,
yeah,
you know
absolutely. My
so
cat's snoring. I don't know if you can hear.
no, 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 it's good, it's good. But thank you so
Really, I had
much.
to move him. He was
Oh yeah,
snoring too loud.
yeah, well, we brought her in, so it's good. Let the
That was fun. Yeah, so
that was so
just play
fun.
that way, and you can do it by yourself out loud, or you can do it with a buddy. It's more potent, I think, when you're doing it actually with somebody, because then you can bounce back and forth off
Yeah,
each
yeah,
other
yeah,
like what we did.
I
Yeah, so
love
that
it.
was fun.
It's going to be a new thing we're going to kind of do on every
Yeah,
episode, and thank you so much. This episode was phenomenal. It was so
yeah,
much fun, and I love.
definitely raised my
Oh,
energy.
it
So
raised my
really good
frequency
for all
too.
our viewers.
Oh, big time. Raised my frequency big time. So, I mean, yeah, even just the whole episode, I mean, just everything that was talked about was so perfect. And it was so perfect, everything how it unfolded, because we allowed it, we let go,
Yeah,
we just leaned into the feeling and following the light and the feeling, and yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So, thank you so much for another
yeah,
beautiful episode. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, share, comment, and on both channels, Alexandria's channel and Wisdom Warriors of Light channel, Alexandria Barker and Wisdom Warriors of Light, and the uh, links will be in the description. And yeah, another Amazing episode. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you, and thank you to everyone watching, and have a great weekend, and
Yes, thank
we'll
you.
see
Take
you
care,
next
everyone.
week.
See you on the next one.
Bye-bye.